All right, let's turn to what is going on in France, because this is quite astonishing. We covered before, Macron has, for years now actually, been pushing to raise the retirement age in France, and is facing vehement opposition from effectively all political corners. It's actually a real horseshoe moment.
Yes.
You have the nationalist right, as led by Marine Le Pen, which is opposed to Macron on this. You also have the left, led by figures like Jean-Luc Mélenchon. They are all united in their opposition to raising the retirement age. And the people are behind them, too, by the way. The polling I've seen has said that anywhere from 2/3 to 3/4 of the French public is like, hell no, we do not support this. And that has shown up in the legislative tactics that Macron has been forced into using if he wants to push this retirement age lift through. And it has also shown in the overwhelming street protests that have been rocking the country for months now, some of which we have covered. But yesterday, something absolutely extraordinary happened, which is that Macron, put this up on the screen, barely survived a no confidence vote by just 9 votes. Now, the reason that this no confidence vote happened, and I'll get into a little bit of the details here, is Macron could not actually muster enough legislative support, it appears, to pass this retirement age lift through like normal order. So he had to invoke this unusual legislative procedure that I won't get into the details of, but that effectively circumvented having to go through and actually obtain a majority of the vote that can be used for certain particular votes within France. It's very unusual to do, and frankly, it's very anti-democratic. It seems like all of these neoliberals, when push comes to shove, they really show their authoritarian colors. But after he pushes this through using this unusual mechanism, they had the opportunity to then have a no confidence vote. And if that no confidence vote had succeeded, not only would his government had to like effectively disband, but it also would have rolled back the retirement age lift. So this came a lot closer than what people thought. And the reason is that they lost a good number of the like center-right Republicans who were in theory in support of lifting the age even further to even higher to 65. But they saw the freak out of the public, and a good like 19 of them that they expected to vote in favor of Macron actually defected and voted along with the no confidence vote. And that's why he barely survived. There have been protests going on over this for months. There continue to be protests. We have a little bit of that. Let's go ahead and put it up on the screen so you can get a sense of this. You see the cops with riot shields and some smoke there. You've got similar interactions here between the police. You've got a fire. One of the things, go ahead, put up the next VO, guys. There have been strikes, sort of rolling strikes throughout French society. One of the ones that has been most visible is the garbage collectors. The rubbish collectors have not been working. So there are tons and tons of garbage piled up in the streets of Paris. And apparently last night, after that no confidence vote narrowly failed, a lot of that rubbish was set on fire. So that's where we are. It really is a quite extraordinary. I think you would put it in the context of, first of all, like the French are very protective of their way of life, and they see this as an assault on their way of life. And whatever you think about where the retirement age should be, like clearly they are overwhelmingly opposed to this change. That's number one. But it also comes in the context of, you've also had in the UK huge protests also over sort of neoliberal policies. So it starts to look like a real trend that is, that is burgeoning in Europe and perhaps beyond.
Well, I think that the major point is if the majority of the people in France don't want it, well, they're the ones who get to decide in their government. And yeah, I mean, going 9 votes away from a vote of no confidence is a disaster. But more so, I think that the means through which that he was trying to do it by bypassing Parliament, I don't think that that's going to sit well with a lot of people in France, because it does, as you say, look authoritarian in nature. Now, part of the problem is, with their party system and the fracturing, that they've effectively guaranteed it so that Macron consistently has been able to win power despite that fact that almost nobody likes him. And he's got like a 30% approval rating, which is outrageous. It almost reminds me of our presidential system. But they've always historically had that strong parliament as well, and their inability here, or the inability right now for the parliament to come in and actually block this, shows you, though, that because they got so close, they may have a path there in the future. And at the very least, it does send a signal to him being like, hey, you're coming right on the razor's edge of actually losing here. And it would be a huge blow, I think, to his presidency. It's also one of those strange things where why does he continue to push this whenever
why are you so committed to this?
Why are you so committed to this whenever it's like arguably the best thing you could do for the French economy right now is to try and negotiate peace in Ukraine. That actually would be the best possible thing.
That's a great
you
point.
could do for energy prices. There are actually protests in France over NATO and over the continued war in Ukraine right now. So we shouldn't pretend like everything is hunky-dory over in Paris, something that he absolutely would have real control over and probably would be politically popular. But, this is what he's decided to go with. I don't really get it.
Yeah, I don't really get it either. And the parallels to the US system that you alluded to, you're not the only one that took note of that. Remember, after Macron was able to win re-election, Ron Klain, who was at that point chief of staff, tweeted basically like, oh, he got re-elected with an approval rating in the 30s. How interesting. Effectively intimating that the plan to get Joe Biden re-elected is very similar. Like, well, you may not really like Joe. You may be wildly dissatisfied with his inadequacies and his ability to effectively govern. But are you really going to vote for Donald Trump? I don't think so. And so it was a similar, like, lesser evil kind of dynamic that got Macron into office. It's also worth remembering that this is far from the first protest, massive protest movement that he has faced since he has been the leader of that country. In his first term, that's when they had the Yellow Vest protests, which were over, a different basket of issues, but similarly driven by economics and populist in nature and this sort of like horseshoe coalition. So now you have in the second term as well. I mean, these are massive, like, I know, like, France protests all the time, but this is a different level. And
they recognize it as such.
Yes, and it's across the country. It really is from sort of all corners of society, a quite, remarkable show of force. Many, many labor unions involved. Like I said, not collecting the rubbish and shutting down some of the transportation system, even dealing with some of the sort of core energy infrastructure, scaling back production. So this has really rocked this society. And even if he is, able to, he already has forced this thing through effectively. Now he's facing, I just saw this morning, calls from even some lawmakers within his own party that are like, this is really not worth it. Like, we support it in principle, and it's all about fiscal responsibility, et cetera. Of course, you could always, you could always fill that hole another way. But so even within his own party, he is losing some support here, which I think is pretty extraordinary as well. Put this last piece up on the screen from the Financial Times just so you can see their take on it. They say Emmanuel Macron to force pension reform without vote as protests sweep France. And they say government risks a no-confidence vote and further backlash on the streets. Obviously, they narrowly survived that no-confidence vote. But this article just goes into some of the details of the legislative maneuvering that was required here in order to force this through. And it also notes that nearly 3/4 of the public are opposed to raising the retirement age, according to polls, and that millions have turned up to protest, not just in Paris and other large cities, but also in small towns. So it really is, across the entire country that society is revolting against these neoliberal changes he's trying to force through.
Yeah, we'll keep a close eye on it. It's not like anybody's trying to cut retirement benefits here in the U.S.
Has a lot of echoes, doesn't it?
Listen, we are cousins after all, I guess, from across the Atlantic.
That's right. Hey guys, ready or not, 2024 is fully upon us now, and Saagar and I have been brainstorming ways that we can really up our game for this critical election.
Yeah, we rely on our premium subs to expand our coverage, to add staff, to upgrade the studio. We just want to give you the best independent coverage of this election, which is possible. So if you can help us out, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com, or the link is down here in the description video. It really means the world to us, and if you like what we're all about, this is the best possible way to keep us 100% independent, working only for you.